And a pleasant Friday. Welcome to Lone Star Park at Grand Prairie alongside Rick Lee. I'm Jim Byers. Rick, we're coming off a tremendous Memorial Day Monday. Record export handle here for a Lone Star Day, aside from Breeders' Cup 2004, which is kind of in a class by itself. Some 6.8 million in a handle. That's incredible. 900,000 plus handled here on track. And some interesting race results. It's good to see some local horsemen win. And boy, what a what a wild day of racing. You throw the weather in as well. The weather's a little cloudy today, but we're on turf, fast and firm.
Yeah, and that's a critical thing, being on turf. That always drives the handle. So we got a good card today, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we do.
Let's get on to the first race here. Everybody kind of looks like they have the same running style in this first race to me. A mile and a 16th on turf, non-winners of two claimers.
Yeah, I like the two Temple of Soul, who's, early in the wagering, being totally ignored at 9-1 at the moment. What broke his maiden in a maiden special weight at Houston, and won by 3 widening lengths near the lead, went into an allowance race and ran a very good race, beaten less than 2. Tried an off-the-turf mud race last time out here at Lone Star and, raced poorly. Easy to draw a line through that. First time for a claiming price. Again, consistently good buyer figures, a big maiden special weight win. Therefore, I think Temple of Soul, to me at least, is the one to beat. The 8 Vintage Kitten, who's the early favorite at this moment. Just a picture of consistency, as you can see. 5, 6 in the money finishes in a row. Been running against optional claiming races at Turf Paradise. Buyer figures been earned are at par or maybe even slightly better than par. The reason I didn't want to pick him is because he's had so many chances. Yeah. He hasn't won since 2019, and he's always right there. I mean, this horse really appears to be the type that really doesn't want to win, so I try to steer clear of those, even though on paper sometimes they look best, like this one looks slightly best. The 9 October Surprise for trainer Steve Asmussen, he did earn a very strong buyer figure in the mud here April 30th, earning an 80 figure, was 2.5 lengths clear of the second place finisher. You look at his previous race on turf and you can see he finished 4th, beating only 4 lengths. But note the winner of that race was Temple of Soul, which is another reason I thought Temple of Soul might take the money, because Temple of Soul is also a shorter price than October Surprise when they met back in February at Houston. So I think it's early in the wagering. I don't think they'd let me bet Temple of Soul now and give me 9-1.
Yeah, I'm on Temple of Soul as well. I think really 2 races ago he made really nice progress, or decent progress at least. Never got to within any closer than 1 3/4 at the finish, but I thought really made some decent progress in that race, and followed that up with a really tough. I mean, that race with Gambler and Harvey Wallbanger and Hunk of Burning Love. That was 2 of those horses went right back in the Steve Sexton Mile. Now they weren't particularly well. Hunk of Burning Love was in it to the last furlong, but nonetheless, so easy to draw a line through that. And I actually think his turf races have been pretty good, and they look good on paper. I went with Patriots War as a second pick. It's interesting that Brendan Walsh really was dying to get this guy going really long on the turf. A mile and a 3/16 at Keeneland that got rained off last fall, 1.25 miles at Churchill got rained off. So Brendan Walsh thought he could go really, really long. Now, that was, a couple of trainers ago. Now Broberg has him. I love Patriots War's bid last time out. There's a bunch of closers in here, and he's kind of a deep one. But I took him second over Vintage Kitten. October Surprise, everything seemed teed up for him last time here on May 22nd when that race came off the turf, and he just laid a big-time egg. But, like you said, he does have one decent turf race behind Temple of Soul to his credit. Second race, gutted by scratches. Both parts of the entry came out. Theorist and Risky Tricky, and oddly enough, Rick, I didn't use the entry anywhere in my top 4. You had it 4th, but, both of us kind of didn't really like the entry to begin with. Both parts of the entry out, plus the 4 bottom, the 6 Dustum, and the 7 Got No Cash. That leaves it with just a 3-horse field, and I'm actually trying to beat the favorite in here. I think Island Sun's going to wind up, you think, pretty short price now with the field pared down?
Yeah, they look pretty. The 3 look pretty comparable. Broberg, I thought they would set the pace. I thought they would be the table setter for the other ones, and but we don't have that now. All three have similar running styles. I think Irish Expectation and Island Sun are a little bit quicker than Lullaby Bling, but I did take Island Sun just off the fact he was so good last year, winning back-to-back races, including a restricted stake at Lone Star. Then at Houston, he runs in the Groovy, the Jim's Orbit, finishes third twice in those races. And then last time out, he's in a two other than. Steve Asmussen drops this 3-year-old all the way into a condition claiming race, and a state-bred condition claimer at that. So drawing outside's always good in a field in any size field, to be honest with you. So just off the companies kept, I give him a slight edge in here. Lullaby Bling, who has been beaten ahead last time out, and then in a condition claiming race at Oaklawn, beaten a neck. Has not won a race since 2019. He'll probably be a little bit behind the other two early in the going here for Robertino Diodoro. That's the reason I didn't want to go with him. And then the two Irish Expectations, who last time out earned a really strong buyer figure of 71. In this field, that's a strong number, won by 8 1/2 lengths. Made the lead. Now I'm not so sure with the scratches. He may make the lead again today. Stick It Up came back, the runner-up out of that race at Delta, and ran a 53, which means that 71 buyer figure held up for Matt Hebert's horse, who just did claim this horse. Matt does a really good job. So what did you end up deciding to do in here?
I went with Irish Expectations. I had him on top all along. I was a little worried that he might have a lot of company up front, and then the scratches came, and that kind of opens it up. Now, obviously, as you mentioned, Island Sun can be pretty quick too, but I kind of like my pick a little more now. I mean, statistically, a major barn switch with Hebert claiming him from the trainer that had him before, at least statistically, a big improvement there. No, we're putting a lot on that last race. I mean, that last race is really the only one that I can necessarily endorse him for in this spot here today, but it was a really nice race. He's come back and breezed 3 times. I'm going to take him over Island Sun. I don't know why, in a way, I didn't take Island Sun. That's kind of a trademark pick for me. First time in for a tag. Like you say, he has shown a fondness for this track, and that last race was really tough. I mean, I've gotten 2 wins out of Algebra. He's become a really nice horse here this meet. But I'm going to try to beat him. Lullaby Bling, boy, I went and watched that May 9th race. He did an 86 Red Sox on that one. I mean, he had that one in the bag and somehow wound up finishing second. So I kind of cooled off on him. On to the third. A mile. Filly and Mare Claimers. And 5 of them going in here.
Yeah, this is another competitive race, interestingly, with only 5 heading here. You'd think there'd be a real big favorite in here, and I didn't see that at least. I went with Oh My Oh, which won for 19. That concerns me, of course, but has actually been very competitive. 10 in the money finishes, I like that. Third start after a layoff, second time for Caldwell. 2 sprints, then a route, an angle I've liked over, my handicapping career. And this horse earlier in his career was a 2-turn runner. So I have no doubt this horse can get the distance. He was very competitive at a higher level around 2 turns. So I think the 2 sprints and a route will suit him or her quite well. The 4 Fabulous Indy, who really had a nice 2-turn maiden win in a full field of 11. I know it was an off-the-turf race, but that was a really nice effort, beating maiden 20s, came back on turf, and ran much better than the first turf race of her career. So I think she's an up-and-comer, a very good chance. I don't know if she's so void of early speed. That first turf race at Houston, she actually was battling for the lead.
Yeah.
So this might be a conscious thing, just taking her back. I know in her last race she did break 10th of 10, so I'm not convinced yet that she's a plotter. And then let's go to the one, Lady Mechanic, Turf Paradise horse again. Did win at this distance there, breaking her maiden by 6 lengths when she was able to, be close to the lead. A couple turf races in there, and maybe she's better on turf than dirt. Last race was a really poor performance, but she did come back here May 16th with a snappy 35 flat breeze, and I think she's the one to catch.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I've got her picked second simply for the wire-to-wire threat. I went with Fabulous Indy. I don't really like her. I didn't really particularly like anybody in here. It is a really wide-open race for a 5-horse field. I kind of wonder if Fabulous Indy maybe didn't freak out a bit in the mud that day and draw off and win at big odds. The last race, she definitely was off slow, but boy, she really dropped back. I don't know. She's a puzzler to me, but the trainer's been very successful in limited starts.
Mm-hmm.
I like Iram Diego. I don't know. I went 1-4-3-5. I mean, Oh My Oh could easily win, and like you mentioned, had really good two-turn form a couple of years ago. If she gets back to that, she's probably going to be in the winner's circle. But interesting race for a small field. I did not have a real good. I think that's one of those races that I looked at it, put it aside, and went back and made my picks a little bit later. Which
you'd have a different pick if you re-looked at it again in another hour, because it's that kind of race.
I don't really tend to like my picks when I put it aside and go on. I'd rather be decisive up front. On to the fourth race here. 7.5 furlongs to kick off the six-shooter. The jackpot six-shooter had a mandatory payout on Monday, so everything starts anew today. Maiden $20,000 claimers.
Yeah, and a good way to start it off. I mean, a big field and a tough handicapping challenge here. I went with Fast to Fortune, the 2-horse, for a few reasons. First of all, consistent buyer figures. Has been raced well on synthetic surfaces. I like that angle. The Gallant Sun, get some turf there. Lucarelli's been so good here at Lone Star Park. So good early speed. Just some variables I like. The 12, Shanny Go Nanny, who I did make the slight favorite in here, has been turf sprinting and finishing up, pretty well in the races. That last buyer figure of 60 is the fastest number in the field. So, you got to like that. You see Street Sense, Smart Strike in the pedigree, so you'd assume 2 turns will not be an issue at all. Generally, this is the type of horse I do like, has had 4 breezes since that race. So, I'm glad I made her the favorite. So at least if I'm wrong about my pick, at least I think she will go favored. And then the 11 horse in here, Queen's Rhapsody, who did run in maiden special weight races and really caught what this turned out to be pretty solid maiden special weight turf fields here.
Yeah.
One at Houston, one at Lone Star Park, went to Louisiana Downs, ran on the main track when the turf race was washed off. Ran third of 6, just a race that's, you don't give it a lot of credence. The turf races, though, against maiden special weights do stamp her as a contender.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I went with Fast to Fortune as well over Shanny Go Nanny. To me, Shanny Go Nanny's liable to be a little bit too short of a price for me to have the 12 hole, which is the 11 and 12 posts on turf are 0 for 11 this year. Now, the stats that I saw didn't break down between sprints and routes, so there could have been a 12-horse or an 11-horse field and a sprint mixed in there, but still, and the posts 9 through 12 on the turf course here, and again, counting sprints, are just 3 for 44. So if you're drawn too far out on this turf course, especially going a distance, it's tough. And so I thought there were some question marks about her. I went with Fast to Fortune. My third pick is a little bit of a shot in the 4, Seriously Sassy. Donnie Von Hemel puts blinkers on. She showed a little touch of spunk last time out on May 16th here and was right in a mile main track race until the latter stages. I mean, she might need to improve to beat the top 2 choices. But on to the 5th. Texas bred maiden claiming fillies going 5.5.
Yeah, another almost impossible race. The buyer figures sure don't help you. They all run the same number, but it's 5.5 furlongs. That's a lot of bling for Gustafson, who's been phenomenal now for 2 straight seasons. This horse won a non-winners at 2 Texas bred race last time out, had a big lead and held on to win by a length. Now just moving up into a non-winners at 3, so I like that. Has been battle tested in a couple restricted stakes down at Houston. Has, good enough early speed. So I thought I'd go that direction. The 3, Dox Danita, it's pretty interesting. Last year at Lone Star Park, she started off really well. She broke her maiden easily, came back in a condition claimer, T-bred, finished second, ran on turf, got some solid figures there, returned in 2021 at Houston and finished third in an allowance race. So obviously, if she runs that race back, I think she's in the winner's circle. Her recent workouts, actually her last 2 breezes have been quite good, dropping from 20,000 down to 7,500. Dox Danita, to me, very, very live in here. The 1, My Golden Bling, what a jockey trainer combo. This has 33% winners, Gustafson and Cabrera. Terrific early speed, drew the inside post position. I wouldn't talk anyone off this horse if that's who they like.
I had a hard time picking, actually, between the two Gustafsons. I went with That's a Lot of Bling as well. I think she's a little more consistent. She was a really good claim by Gustafson, claimed out of a winning effort in February, and since then has run in a couple of stakes, placed in the 2 Altazano, has a third and a win here. You know, for a modest runner, I think that was a good claim for 7,500 for him earlier in the year. I took her. I think her last race was really quite good. Though it looks shocking on paper to see a 4-length lead at the furlong pole and a 1-length lead at the end. And actually, in my call, I actually think it was more like 3 parts of a length. But photo finish photographs time, not, it's not an eyeball snapshot of the finish. But nonetheless, Dixie Carousel, who as a preview I'm picking later on in the day, was somewhat lapped on her at the end. But Leslie was looking around for the competition. He did start driving her, but she won that race. She won that race well. I mean, she wasn't just gassed at the end and losing a big lead. So I liked her for that. And I have Docs to need a third. Yeah, she's definitely. One thing I will point out about the 5, because it's not in the PPs, twirling around can be a cantankerous sort. She came out early last time, then she flipped in the gate and was a late scratch on May 9th. So if you have basic PPs, that doesn't show up. I understand the Equibase Premium PPs or entries have those late scratches, but twirling around, watch her behavior. On to the 6th, 7.5 on turf. Scratch the horse that Rick liked as his best long shot of the day. Scratch the 7 Vincitore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's easy to say, that horse probably would have won, right? As a horse player, that's what we tend to believe. But anyway, I'm with the 10 now. Papa's Boy, Carl Broberg's horse in here, who was second at Fairgrounds in a $15,000 condition claimer. Last time out at Lone Star Park, finishes third in a solid field of allowance foes. Now dropping back into a condition claimer, just off the fact he ran well at Fairgrounds and exits a really competitive race against allowance rivals. I'm going with Papa's Boy. Bad Boy, got a boy exacta here.
Yeah.
Raced well at Fairgrounds. He noticed off a very long layoff, finished third behind Papa's Boy, but probably needed the race. I mean, off a layoff of that length. And this 5-year-old was 4-5 that day. Since then, though, didn't really show a lot of improvement. That's a bit of a concern. Usually third off a long layoff, you'd expect improved performances. Really haven't seen that. However, his Beyer figures are very much in line with what it usually takes to win at this level. And let's go to the 3-horse in Varnished, who's now my third selection. Third place finishes at Houston. Not a lot of early speed from this 5-year-old, but he does finish well. And his turf record, though he hasn't raced on turf much, he's been very consistent.
Yeah, I think he should really be coming on late. I've got him 4th behind Really Slow, who's my third pick here. Really Slow ran a nice race last time behind a wire-to-wire winner, Glass Eater, who kind of freaked out on the slop and just went off and was untouchable. I went with Bad Boy. I agree the form since that pretty good third as a favorite in that comeback race is not really what I'd like to see, but he's been a little more consistent. His start last time was just atrocious. I mean, he hopped, he was off way behind, so that's an easy toss-out for me on the slop. I'm kind of pinning this on Beyer figs and general body of work. 2 years ago in New York and whatnot, he was quite good, but that was a long time ago. Papa's Boy, I mean, you got to like his last race, that Aries Celestic Man John Doe race. That was a good race, and he was 17-1 that day. You're not going to get anywhere near that today.
And Broberg didn't scratch him, so he must actually like him.
That is interesting, yeah. On to the 7th. Scratch the 9, Ms. Red Rockette, who both of us had third. Neither of us are really necessarily enamored with her, although it was interesting to see Asmussen claim her back in March. Hadn't found a spot for her since. Texas bred, non-winners of 2 claimers.
Yeah, and this race had my second, what I could call kind of long shot here. I went with the 1 Awesome Sunset for Brent Davidson. Not, the 1 for 22 record, that pretty much guarantees you 5-1. But the record on a fast track is solid. The buyer figures are slightly above par, and this is a pretty soft field. So I thought at 7/8 of a mile, this might be right in her wheelhouse. Again, she lost a late lead going a mile here opening weekend, so dropping from 20 down to 7,500, I just think she might be a bit of an not a big upset, but an upsetter in here. The 4, Dixie Carousel, Gustafson Cabrera, they're pretty much favored just by bringing one over. This one might deserve such. Finished second last time out at this exact same condition. Third start after a layoff. Not a lot of speed from this 4-year-old filly, but she finishes well, and going from 6 furlongs to 7 furlongs, going to make her, tough to beat. And then the 5 is now my third selection, Chow Chow, for Sarah Davidson, and she finished second at this same condition at 7/8 of a mile, just 2 starts back. Last time out, got a little ambitious going into the allowance ranks after such a good condition claiming race. Kind of paid the price, finishing 4th, and now they're back where this mare belongs.
Yeah, I've got her as a third pick. You kind of have to get over the 1 for records in here. She's 1 for 24. Awesome Sunset 1 for 22. Ms. Red Rockette, the scratch filly, is 1 for 20. You got a 1 for 25 and a 1 for 47 in the lineup as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have to kind of move past that, which is hard for me to move past sometimes. That's not why I picked Dixie Carousel, because she's only 1 for 6, but I honestly liked her last race. That's a lot of bling, was out there by herself. And like I mentioned, Lane Leslie was looking around for the competition. And then there was a group of 3, or a set of 3, as you might say in morning workout terminology, in which Dixie Carousel was in between them and outfinished them by a decent distance, beat High Def Ridge and some others, and wound up lapped on the winner at the end. So I thought that was a nice race. Now she gets an extra furlong. I mean, she is by no means any kind of a cinch, but that's why I went with her on top. She is a bling, comes out of a low buyer fig, but a pretty good front end maiden win. It was not a very good field, but she has a pretty fast breeze since then. So I took her second, just in the shot that maybe she gets a lead and just kind of goes out with it. We got video here in race 8, scratch the 5, Chucky's Chance. I love the last race for this horse, Mr. Which is an interesting name to say, but this horse debuted on April 23rd, was 13-1. We're going to watch the final part of this. Keep in mind, Bordeaux Red is the horse that's closing in on Mr. Who has a big lead here. Now, the horse we're talking about is going to wind up running second. Bordeaux Red, though, came back just the other day and was bet pretty hard at a mile and got tired, but ran pretty well to run second. Mr. is way, way clear of everybody else, Rick, and I really like the way this horse, in his debut, he was kind of overlooked. He had Raylu Gutierrez. He runs a huge buyer fig, and he has come back in the month plus since and had a really good half-mile, time-wise at least, a really good half-mile breeze. And in this maiden race, I think there's really only one to beat on paper in Megatap. And he merits respect, but Megatap looks like he might be a perennial bridesmaid.
Yeah, and Mr. the pace figure was through the roof that day. I was expecting to see maybe a lot of 45-1s, 45s, but I didn't see them. So just a really fast horse. Gustafson did a good job of getting this horse fit without really touting his hand, and that's why he got 13-1. But now the cat's out of the bag, and he's got 7-5. So I hope he bet the place. No, I don't mean to imply he bets, but anyway, a massive effort though. So clearly the one to beat in here, and he might end up being a really nice horse. To be honest with you, I mean he has that potential.
Yeah, because Say It Ain't Sony that ran third, seems useful. Bordeaux Red came back, ran a decent race the other day. So,
I've often told Gary West, that is, when you do get such a huge buyer pace figure from a lightly raced horse, oftentimes as they mature, they can run that same figure as a final figure. And his pace figure, is in the high 80s. So, I mean, I have no doubt he could reach the high 80s as a final figure soon. Maybe today. The 4 Megatap. 4 straight second-place finishes on the main track and made $50,000 races at Oaklawn Park. Has good, tactical speed, we'll call it. Won't be able to keep up, I don't believe, with Mr. but nevertheless, last race, turf race, you don't have to really draw a line through it. I'm sure he got some conditioning out of it. It was a solid performance, but I really feel like he's going to have to improve to win this race. And then the 7, Crimson Storm, is a distant third place. This is a distant third place pick as far as I'm concerned.
My distant third place pick is a firster, Brad's Time. I mentioned the pin hooking occasionally. They buy yearlings and then sell them as 2-year-olds after they've had them under tack and whatnot. Well, Brad's Time was a $52,000 yearling that they were able to turn around the following spring at Ocala and sell for $120. So I like that. Mm-hmm. But, he's a distant third pick for me because really the ones that have been to the races, other than the top 2, didn't thrill me a whole lot.
Yeah, the Beyer Par's in trouble in this race. A 70. I think we're going to go way over it. I think this is a good field.
Yeah. Now we got one more video here. I think this 9th is super wide open. Love this race. Mile and a 16th for maidens on the turf. We're going to watch Directional. Now, it's going to be a little hard to see this guy because he's going to be kind of buried toward the inside. He's in maroon. He's number 6 here. He's way back there. He's in front of about 4 horses on the inside. Maroon Silks, White Cap. He's switching outside of Black Rock Castle, who's right on the inside there. Right in through here. The horse in maroon just gets stopped right there, right at the gap. And Stuart Elliott rightfully says, well, the day is over for this horse, and he just kind of wraps up on him. Black Rock Castle's the 3. Beat him by about 2.5 lengths. But, Rick, if Directional didn't have that incredible amount of traffic trouble, his line probably looks, 11th, 6th, and then maybe 4th, beaten only 2.5 instead of 4 1/4. I think that was a good first turf effort for Directional, so I'm going to go with him on top here. When I think this race is really competitive.
Yeah, and he also he didn't break well. I mean, they have him breaking 12th of 12. So, I don't know if
Hopefully
you saw the start of the race.
Today.
Yeah, if he gets out better today and has
I didn't note it necessarily, but I don't know if I went back and rewatched it.
Well, someone probably had to break 12th. I mean, not probably. They have to. So you might, maybe he didn't break that bad.
And he gets longer today, too.
Yeah, there's a lot to like. Draws the rail. I mean, certainly he can win. The 3 Sharp Rocket, who has finished second in his last 3 races. The more important thing, though, is he finished second at Fairgrounds. And you go back to his previous race at Fairgrounds when he had raced only one previous time, and that was a dirt sprint. He was competitive. So I give a lot of, credence to a good turf races at Fairgrounds. So I just figure this horse is fit, ready, and off a good Fairgrounds turf form. Is the one to beat in my mind. The 5 Black Rock Castle finished second at Houston in the same maiden special weight condition. Made the lead that day. Came back against many of these in that May 14th race we just saw a video of. Was bet down to 3-1 favoritism and finished up well. And gets a rider switch too today, so that may help as well. And the 4-horse Cairo Warrior in the money. Boys. 4 turf races, 3 seconds, 1/3. Does finish up strong. There's a lot of horses in this field that seem like they're going to finish up strong, which is another reason I thought Sharp Rocket may be in front of these turning for home.
Yeah, I mean, Sharp Rocket, I wrote on my PPs, logical, one to beat. I mean, there's no question. I'm trying to beat him. I mean, he finished second, 12.5 lengths in front of the 3rd place horse on the main track here last time out. And his turf races, like you mentioned, have been good. I'm just trying to see if maybe I can get a little bit of a price with Asmussen in the nightcap in a race that seems pretty wide open. And, Sharp Rocket, I mean, definitely the one to beat, but, he does have a little bit of seconditis going for him, too, albeit that one really nice Fairgrounds race. So I took him second, but the horse that intrigues me in here in this race where there could be a whole bunch of horses coming from out of it is Cool Power, the 6. That's my 3rd pick. Gellner and Luzzy are a potent tandem. This horse has speed, puts blinkers on, stretches out, although those Delta races were 2-turn races. But, he could be in front for a while here, And the way Luzzy's riding, he's putting him in the race, and this horse has speed anyway and adds blinkers. And
a sharp recent work.
Yeah.
47-2.
And it seems like, we do sometimes have turf races here where they come from way out of it, but it doesn't hurt to be in front. No. Never hurts to be in front. So that's why I threw him in there for 3rd and included him on my suggested pick 4 ticket, just as one of the ones that might be up on the engine in this spot, because there doesn't appear to be a whole lot of speed in this race.
No, I agree with you. And the contenders, the horse I made the top 4 choices, they all seem to be very similar.
Yeah. So when that happens, sometimes I like to mix it up a little bit with somebody else. All right. Well, I think we've covered the 9 winners in that card.
Yeah, I'm tired.
All right. Well, thanks as always,
Yep.
and we'll do it again tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, we're starting at 1:35 Central. It's Belmont Day, of course, and on Triple Crown days we start an hour earlier, so note that. 10-race card coming up tomorrow, and we'll get back here to do it again.
Yep.
Thanks for looking in today, and enjoy your Friday.